All right, man. So it's Jackson.
Yep.
Last name?
Limon.
Limon. Okay, I was like, Limon. How do we pronounce
Sometimes
this?
we get lemon.
Lemon, dude. No, that's harsh.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
uncalled for.
It is.
Don't let that slide. Um, let's see. What do we want to get started on? Ghostwriting. Tell me a little bit about how you got into it, dude. It's an exploding field right now, but it is kind of a unique field. Talk to me.
Yeah. So it's a great question. I studied linguistics over at BYU.
Dang.
Served my mission over in Thailand. Just like fell in love with the language. I'm like, I
Mm.
want more of this. So got into the linguistics program, and it was fun. I was like, I'm just like soaking all this up. I was teaching Thai at the time, and then towards the end of my time at BYU, I or my dad was working on a startup, and he's like, hey, like we need a logo, and I love logos, and so like sure, like I want to help you. So helped him build the logo. He's like, well, now we need a website to put the logo on. I'm like, sweet, I've never done website stuff, and it's like all during like my last semester or two. And so we built the website. He's like, well, now we need the social media to help promote the website, which the logo is on. And so I helped with the website. I'm like, let me just take care of all of your marketing. And so I just dove in, and I loved it. It was so fun. And it was scrappy. Like no one knew what they were doing. I was like, just like YouTubing stuff all the time. And then from there, I was like, everyone was asking me, like, well, what are you going to do after college? I was like, well, I could go translate for the government. I could go teach, become a professor, but then I would have to go to school, like, for however many,
Forever.
forever. And so I was like, I was really torn. And I talked with a few buddies. They kind of coached me through some stuff. They're like leadership coaches at the time.
Nice.
And then they're like, well, have you like considered copywriting? I was like, what is copywriting? I thought it was like the little R and stuff.
Yeah.
And and so I was looking into it. I was like, wait, this is like pretty sweet. Like you have like this linguistics language, but then also on the marketing side, and like you can persuade people to like take a certain action and like just grow your brand that way. I was like, this is awesome. Because at the same time, I was like, well, what do I even put on the website?
Yeah.
I was like, do I just like say whatever I want, or like does this have to be like on brand?
Yeah.
And so I kind of used copywriting at my dad's startup. I was like, this is so cool. I was just like geeking out about it.
Yeah.
And that took me on like a year-long rabbit hole of copywriting. I did a little side quest of like paid ads for like probably 9 months, just because I was getting into it. I was like trying to network, and that's actually when I first got into like the ghostwriting side, because I went up to this guy. He was like kind of lived by my parents, friend of a friend. He owned a paid ad agency, and he was like, "Oh, you do copywriting? Have you ever like done ghostwriting?" I was like, "Yeah, like I've kind of like heard about it. I've like written for like my dad a little bit and whatever." He's like, "Well, can you like ghostwrite for me?" I was like, "Sure." And so he's like, "Well, send me a proposal." And so I sent him a proposal. He's like, "Why don't I just hire you?" And I was like, sweet. So that was like my side quest to paid
Nice.
ads. But then early mornings, late nights. This is a long story.
No,
But
this is
this
excellent.
this is what got me into the ghostwriting, because I was like, well, copywriting's awesome. I love this stuff. But now, like, if I can work closely with like pretty high level people and like just extract their thoughts and like help them make that content, like that's like the next level up. So, like I said, early mornings, late nights, just like doing kind of projects and like very small client work. And then I was like, well, if I can like take care of like 15 clients at this ad agency, why can't I just like do it on my own?
Yeah.
So, then I went like full time with it.
That's awesome. How long has that been?
I went full time back in like July, early
Okay.
July.
That's crazy.
So,
I love that you like started in linguistics, language, right? So much of marketing is communication.
Yep.
So much of marketing, whether you call it language or, how do you translate this message, right? Like the logo, getting started on a logo, all of that is insane. That is like the most unconventional path to marketing I've heard, but probably one of like the most valuable, right? So what has been the most interesting thing you've learned on the marketing side that like has nothing to do with the linguistic side in your opinion, but you were like, this makes a lot of sense. Like it has curious, like started with logo, website, copywriting, got into paid ads. That's a pretty cool path. What's the biggest takeaway so far?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, so much learning. Like every day is just like a rabbit hole, like, okay,
Yeah.
like what's next? One thing that kind of stands out is the concept of category design, of
Mm.
how do you create like a category of one and become like that category king in
Mhm.
whatever space you're playing in. I don't know if you're familiar with like the red ocean, blue ocean
Yeah.
type stuff. Category design is almost saying like just like scratch that whole thing and like go build your own ocean
Yeah.
type. Like it's almost like a whole nother level
Yeah.
out. So I would say that kind of framework and that like type of strategic thinking is like a huge like breakthrough, at
Yeah.
least on my side, because then it like changes the whole like how do you even write copy and like how do you like design a lot of this stuff.
Flips it all on its head.
Exactly.
So, have you found that there's like brands that are spending too much time caring about the new eyeball? So you're talking about red ocean, blue ocean, go make your own ocean. There's brands that are spending a lot of time to like get new eyeballs, but what are they doing with the current eyeballs they have? Like, is there a nature or a nurturing side that you feel is getting lost with that maybe is important to you?
Yeah, I think there's like social media in general, I think has lots of hype. I love it. I mean,
Yeah,
I've done it and I'm currently doing it.
obviously.
And and I think like yes, there is so much hype around it and it's very like sexy
Yeah,
compared to like the retention side of like email and like nurturing and
yeah.
educating. And so I do think that if you are trying to build a category of one, it does take lots of education, and the best way to do that I think is through email. And
Interesting.
specifically through, weekly newsletters, just like high value stuff of like let's just like help you. We want to help
Yeah.
you solve your problems for free.
Add value only. Love it. And that kind of gets into the world of like owned media versus rented media, right? Like that's I'm a SEO paid media guy and I've come to love email. Similar to what you're talking about for that exact reason, right? Is like, well, I have to pay to get your eyeballs every time. Even remarketing costs money. It's cheaper. It costs money, right? Like, why would I pay more money to get my same customer back when I can have them in an email list? And how have you found that's like successful? How do you take ghostwriting, right? Like typically that's for social or other. And then do you do any of the email side of it as well? Like how does that look on your side?
So I'm trying to position myself as a newsletter ghostwriter.
Interesting. Okay.
So creating that long form content for these creators because they have their specialty and like they're
Hmm.
trying to run their business, and a lot of the times it's like it's coaching.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these creators fall into, and even like founders, like they want to interact, and even if like they aren't doing coaching, like they're
Their
just
content
busy.
is coaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And so they're spending this money and even like paid, like they're sometimes paying for it. And if they're
Hmm.
not paying for it in money, they're paying for it like in time and energy because they have to
Yeah.
go make all this stuff. And so the gap that I noticed is the first one is there's no education. People are
Mm.
just like, hey, here's all this cool social stuff. Let me track all these eyeballs. And then people drop off like
Yeah.
right after that. Like, let's send you to a website with a million things that you can click on, and then they wonder why their conversion rate's so low. And
Yeah.
so capturing them, but then also educating them on the newsletter side.
So I'm curious. We talked like add value. Is it more important in your opinion to add value or to be consistent? Obviously, both are important, right? But where does that kind of like balance out in your opinion? How would you go about helping someone do that?
So you're saying the value plus the consistency?
Yeah, so on the newsletter side, right? Like people want they want nurturing. They want to know that you can add value to them before it's kind of like the no trust buy, right? Like no trust like, no trust buy, however you want to go about that. But like how do you get to the consistency level that is still adding enough value? Because if you're sending something every day, it's less valuable. But if you're sending something once a week, maybe that's better. What's that balance of like, here's the amount of value you have to add, and here's the consistency that you need to have, and now marry those two together?
Yep. I think like for a general rule of thumb, the more emails you send, the better.
Okay.
Not saying you have to send like 50 a day. Like
Yeah.
there is a point where like it's gonna break
Yeah.
and people are gonna get bugged. But like if you know like exactly who you're speaking to, you know what problems they're dealing with, like people are going to want to hear from you. And if you're doing it right, like ideally the customer should be saying like I want more of this, like
Yeah.
give me more. And so general rule of thumb, the more emails you send, the better. And I think to get a little bit more specific with that, the reason you want to be consistent with it, and this kind of goes back to like some kind of deeper copywriting principles,
Mhm.
but when you're consistent, it brings a feeling of safety for the person because they're anticipating, or they're not anticipating, but they're, I guess anticipating is the
Yeah.
right word. They're anticipating when you come in. Like that feeling of safety is really important when it comes
Yeah.
to like your copy and your branding. Because if they can feel safe with you, they're going to trust you. If they can trust you, then they're probably
They
going to buy from you.
they'll buy from you. Yeah.
So I think that's where the consistency comes into play.
So now that kind of comes into like, how do we need to understand our audience? Because it sounds like you're like, there's a breaking point, there's some of this. What's kind of your process when you're, say, kicking off a new ghostwriting client and we're like planning out strategy? What do you need to know about your audience before you feel like you can plan? How do you go about finding that information? So, like, number one, what is that information? Number two, how do you go find it?
Yeah. I like to do what's called ghostwriting interviews, and um, I pull a lot of principles from my time at BYU. I did some leadership coaching down there, and it was like a game changer on how to ask questions, how to like close listen, and how to like get down to the root of the problem. Because what a lot of people will do, they'll ask like, "What is your target audience?"
Yeah.
They'll say males ages 40 to 50 located in Utah Valley.
Right.
Like, okay, that is just barely scratching the surface, even though like we all just accept that. But like there's so much more to that. And so what I like to do is like I'll sit down and we just like pound out questions, and like I'm really just trying to like almost be the devil's advocate. Like, is that really what it is? Like, is
Yeah.
that really like who you're trying to go after? And a lot of times, like, we have to look at the data. Like, what does the data tell us about
Mm,
our customers? Who's coming in? Because sometimes people think our target audience is one thing, but the data says something completely else.
yeah.
So, um, looking at the data, asking like those really deep questions like over and over again until you can actually get to the root of what they want. So I would say that's what I'm looking for, like when I try to kick something off
Yeah.
with a client. So
How do you know when you've made it? Like, what's that point when you're like, okay, I can stop playing devil's advocate. Like
yep,
now we've hit it. When do you know you've gotten to the diamond in the rough?
yep. I think that's a great question. I think it depends on the client and the brand, and like there's so many different factors that go into it. I think one of the best ways to do that is like once you get down to like, okay, like we feel pretty good about like this, like we can't get any more specific than this, then what I would recommend is like that's when you go make the content about it. Like let's go
Mm,
like test this. Like we're assuming, and from our strategic thinking and our
yeah,
conversations and both of our experiences, we think that this is the best target audience. Let's go make some content about this and see how it
ooh,
lands with people.
I like that.
So,
What is so I'm like every brand's going to be different, right? Like metrics of like this has landed or hasn't. But what's kind of the timeline that you're like by this time point we need to see roughly something like this on either engagement, enrollment, or whatever the metrics are that we're looking for. What's the timeline that if I need to go test something, say I know my core audience is this, I say I know, right? Like we've had our conversation, we've decided we're going to test it. How long do I need to test it?
testing is it's tricky because I wish there was a perfect world where you could put out one post and everyone's like, I love this or I hate this, and then like, sweet, let's move forward from there. Like it's never ever a
No.
clear path. And maybe you can speed up that process with paid ads, but I mean you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And you know, there's even more testing inside of the paid ads area, and I'm sure you know. But like organically, if you want to test this, I think a good time frame is like a month of like consistent posting for a month because that gives you more data.
Yeah.
And and within within that bucket, I would say, you know, posting at least once a day, like on longer form platforms like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So like if you can like test an idea, put it out there, see what people think, and like just do that consistently, like every day for 30 days, you're gonna have a 30 days worth of data to
Yeah.
go back and look at. And if you want even more, just keep doing it for 60 or 90 days. And so the more data you can get back, the better. And so that's kind of what
No,
my answer would be.
I love that. Let's say you get to 30 days and the results aren't where you thought. You now have data. How do you go about saying, like, is it impressions compared to engagement? Say if it's on social media, or maybe it's enrollment in our newsletter, or is it like click through? Say newsletter side and social media side. Say we've done it for 30 days. we know we need to pivot. How do I know I need to pivot? And then once I know I need to pivot, how do I go about starting over this process? Like, what, walk me through that, because I think this is awesome.
I think a good rule of thumb, another good rule of thumb, is doubling down on what's working.
Mm,
And I say that in context of what category you want to build and like which direction, like your North Star of where you're heading, and then also what your audience is saying. Because, and I'm kind of talking about two different things here, but for example, like, um, if I want to, if I want to go build something in like the e-commerce space, yeah, that's probably a bad example. I'm trying to think of like an example off the top of my head. But like what I mean is when like people are like, I love writing about like X topic. Like I'm passionate about this, I love it. It's like, but your audience is actually liking something else. So for
yeah.
example, I like writing about ghostwriting. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. But when I write about category design, I get a lot of feedback from people saying, I don't know what this is. I'm very curious. Like tell me more about this.
Mm.
And so now I'm kind of on like this edge of like, well, do
Ah.
I keep writing about ghostwriting? Because that's going to drive like my category and my business.
Hmm.
But I also see my audience trending a little bit more towards the category design topics, like when I do a breakdown or I'm pointing out different category design principles. So hopefully that makes sense.
No, it does. So when you say your audience is engaging more with category design, you get like questions.
Yep.
So looking for people in my comments saying like, "What is this?" Or is it DMs or some of both? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, preferably it's all DMs, and they're all like, "How do I do this?" Right?
Yep.
But then say, how do you make that pivot? Because does that feel like a repositioning of like, okay, now I have to write only about this? Obviously, you're gonna still kind of touch on some of your original content
Yeah.
and doubling down on what's working. That's gonna evolve over time.
Yep.
Do you feel like that ever translates to like problems or people having like, but no, this is like where I'm passionate. I need to still touch on this. How do you have that conversation with somebody when you're like, it is very clear we need to go this direction? The data's saying it, you can see it.
Yeah.
Let your passion die? Like, what do we do? Like,
Yeah.
how do you have that conversation?
I think it's a tricky conversation because it really depends on like what's the goal that you're
Yeah.
shooting for. Like, is it to drive more business? I hopefully, and like make more revenue from this. Because that's the whole point of like, I mean, not the whole point. Of course, we want to do this for passion and and do what we love to do
Yeah.
and help as many people as we can along the way. But like really determining like what is like your end goal
Mm,
and is if we keep writing about this stuff and creating content around this, is this going to help us reach our goal? Like
yeah.
yes or no. And so I think that's ultimately like the end question.
Okay.
And so I think if people are kind of veering off in a different direction, I think a good thing to do is how can we incorporate some of those like really engaged people? So I think option one, how can we incorporate that into our offer, our product, even more content that is tailored to that goal? I think that's option one. Option two, we may just be hitting the wrong people.
Mm,
And so it goes back to that very beginning question of maybe we just started with the wrong people
okay.
and we're attracting a different type of people that we don't necessarily want because they may not help us reach our end goal.
Okay.
So
Is that, I mean, I would imagine we have to start with that anytime you're engaging with a client. How does a business owner or a new marketer start to figure that out? Like,
yeah.
what advice do you have for, hey, I'm interested in this, but I want to make sure I know what I'm getting into before I come work with Jackson, right? Like, so what is the advice you have for them, or even marketers that are like, I want to try this too? What do you have?
Yeah. I think just start writing online. Like it's not gonna hurt. Like and I I'm just the biggest advocate for like just start writing. It's gonna be scrappy and it's gonna be messy. But
Yeah.
like that is the best way just to not only feel more confident in like what you have to say and like what you're gonna be building, but also to see what other people have to say
Yeah.
and get their feedback. And like you can even just ask them, say, hey, I'm building this. I'm thinking about these three different audiences. What do you guys resonate with the most? Like
Yeah.
that is a very valid, safe thing you
Question.
can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ask.
Yeah. And so just asking people, I think that's like the online writing route. I mean, ask everyone in your immediate circle, like, hey, how do you feel about this thing? Who do you think this would land with the most?
Mm.
And like asking really good questions, not like, who's my demographic, but like,
Right.
like, why are we doing what we're doing? I think to sum all of that up, really starting with your point of view or your POV has been very beneficial for me of saying like, okay, where do I stand? Because if you don't know where you stand, then you probably don't know where you want to go. Or
Yeah.
and that path is going to be pretty muddy and messy. It's going to be muddy and messy either way. But
Yeah.
it's going to be a little bit more clear if you understand like, okay, this is where I am at. I'm going to start here and move in a direction.
I love that. I have an idea, and feel free to shoot it down if you're like, you're asking me for free work because I am. I want to do this for Greenhouse right now. I'm like, let's hash it out and kind of showcase an example of like, here's how that you would go about these questions. Here's how you kind of dial things in. Would you feel okay doing that
Oh
right now?
yeah.
All right, let's do it, man. So let's start like, hey, I'm the director of Greenhouse, Jordan Brandon. How do we start writing better about who we want to target in line? Goals are to help, students get experience. That's like the business goal. Obviously, I have to bring clients in for them to work on to do that. Our ideal clients are small to medium sized businesses that have marketing budget, but not necessarily a strategy yet or someone to help execute. Maybe they've got a strategy and a person that's leading that. They don't have someone to execute. Or alternatively, they have money and no one to help direct that money, right? So that's like the start of who we have on it as an audience. Start asking me questions and let's get to here's who we should target and why.
Yeah. Um, how many people have you worked with so far, and who are those people?
Oh, there is a ton. I'm not going to say everyone's name online. We've got a handful of businesses that are in like home services and construction or B2B services. Um, we've worked with probably 100 businesses at this point. So
Oh,
we've
nice.
got a decent sample size. The way we found them in the past, we're lucky we have college students in a class that will help sell for us. They just go reach out to anybody they feel like is in our target audience. Sometimes we have some really good fits, sometimes we don't, and we just don't work together. Also, we just kind of have our own network of people see that I work here online and on LinkedIn or whatever, and they reach out. Same thing with all of our students and our other faculty members that kind of reach out about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like you have some good systems in place to
Yeah,
help bring in these different people. Um, and from out of like your pool of 100
yeah,
ish, it sounds like you're working with some B2B and construction companies. Would
yeah.
you add anything else to that?
Yeah, so we've had some software companies that are just more small startup. They've got like one marketing team member, way too many things to do. Those are a little more rare, right? Because typically software companies have more money and will just hire a whole team or work with an agency. Um, yeah, I'd add in that like it's not all construction or home services, it's not all B2B, but those have been like we've had a lot more of them because they're typically not hiring marketing people as often, right? Like they want to outsource it. They don't know how to manage them.
Yeah. So I think just to kind of reflect that back,
Yeah.
it sounds like there's a bigger need for those services than potentially other services because they probably have a team and
Yeah.
they're doing stuff. So I think that's like one point of data,
I like
right?
that.
And so another question I have for you is what what's like your dream client for?
Dream client, dude, that's a good question. Um, Honestly, it's more about what they get out of it than like an industry or anything like that. So a client that can say like, we are so happy to be working with Greenhouse. Like we've seen these results that we would have never gone if we hadn't gotten it. We love the strategy and ideas we're getting from the students. Like we're looking for someone that's young, new, energetic, and willing to try things out. And we love that we got that, right? Like those are the kind of things they're okay if there's a mistake here or there, as long as there's learning from it, right? Like marketing is messy, mistakes happen, even if you're a professional. I've made mistakes recently, but that's kind of what we're looking for is like people that are excited about the work that's getting done, excited to have somebody energetic and have strategy and know what's going on. Because a lot of times they're like, we just don't even know what's going on. We have the analytics, we don't know how to read it. We have this, we don't know what it means. We talk to our customers, they're saying this, we don't know what to do with it. Those kind of things.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It's such like a fun problem to solve too of
Yeah,
like you bring in a high energy client, you have these high energy students
yeah,
and like let's just build stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So, first I love that. I think that's awesome. Um, to get a little bit more specific on that problem, right? Because they have needs, they
Hmm.
have the energy, and they're like, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What's like the level two of that problem? Like,
Mm.
how would you get more specific on that problem?
Yeah. So either they're like, hey, we have a really good website and it converts, but we don't know how to get people to it. Or they're like, we have really good products and people love us, but we don't have a good online presence. right? So how do we start building our online presence? Because we're doing great, like we're winning in the sales side. Like our conversion rate's 70%. That's insane, right? But they're like, but we don't get enough people in the door. How do we build that? Another one is like our sales team is amazing, but all they know how to do is either like go door to door or create long-term relationships. We want to feed them some deals so that they don't have to go hunt every day, all day, that they get some leads from us, right? Like a lead gen strategy. Another one's been like, hey, we know like we have the money, we need to do this. We don't even know how to start. Like, tell us how to start. What should we even be looking for? And a lot of times it's like, well, let's get a website, let's get some social media presence, and then let's find a way to generate high quality leads for you, right? So it's like they're like, we want to get to this end goal. We know what the goal is. We want 10 leads a month. We have $100,000 a month to do it. Like we have insane budgets. We just don't even know where to start. And so being able to like just very simply, build the staircase for them to kind of climb up to get to that goal. Those, I don't know if that gets specific enough. It's still a little bit vague, but hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and I love that because what you just outlined right there is like 5 posts.
Yeah.
Because it's like, let's write a post and like a piece of content just on lead gen, on like how
Mm,
these businesses are struggling with lead gen. Let's write another post about how these businesses struggle about getting started.
yeah.
And like you could build 5 more posts off of just that one post. And so
That's
as
awesome.
you're talking about some of this stuff, it's like a little side tangent from our conversation. It's like I'm just thinking about content. I mean, that's just
Hmm.
kind of how my marketing brain works. But it's like because we're having these types of conversations, I'm able to pull stuff out and organize it in a way that's going to attract more people,
Yeah.
and hopefully resonate with them a lot more because we're getting specific on who it's actually for.
Yeah.
Because if you say, "Hey, construction company who is located in Utah Valley and is
Facing these
facing
problems.
X, Y, and Z. Here's what we've been doing, and here's some of our results, credibility, testimonials, whatever."
Hmm.
And so that's I think why these conversations are so important
Yeah.
because it's like if you don't talk about it, like
How do we ever get to
yeah,
it?
you'll never know. And so I think another question I have for you is with these, we've gotten a little bit more granular, like on a specific problem. What's like your process for solving this type of problem?
Ooh, honestly, it's a lot like what we're going through right now. It's really question and then saying, okay, here's kind of the data that we do have, or we don't have any. So let's just take anecdotal while we have that, because it's at least a place to start, right? So oftentimes it's just conversations. A lot of times I join those conversations and the students listen. The goal is that when they leave, they know how to have those conversations as well, and they've had that modeled to them. And then they lead the project. So it's like, they heard the original conversation. We kind of have that mapped out. Once we get down to, okay, here's the strategy, then we build out kind of a scope of work and say, this is how we'll execute on it and say yes or no. Do you know what I mean? And that's pretty much our process. It's have a conversation. That's kind of like a discovery call slash sales call, if you want to call it a sales call. Most of the time I'm not selling people. I'm saying like, do this instead, do this instead, right? Because we are looking for a very specific fit. And so it helps us to say no because then they build trust and they're like, we got really good advice. You should go talk to him too, right? So yeah, that's kind of been our process up to this point. It's a lot of question and back and forth, and then saying, we recommend this. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I love that because it's almost a little bit of free consulting
Yeah,
as well. Like,
yeah,
hey, like we know our stuff and we want to help you understand like why we would recommend this
yeah,
path, right? Instead of,
absolutely.
hey, here's our price point, come buy from us.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
And so I love that approach. And I think too, when you're able to market not only the problem but the process that you guys go through,
Mm,
it's so much easier for people to hop on board. So like from what you just said, that's even more content that your team
yeah,
can put out
yeah.
because it's like,
Here's
hey,
our onboarding process. Here's questions you should answer. Yeah.
exactly. Here's step by step of like what we're gonna do for you. And if you can like make like 3 iterations of that and then go test it and put
Mm.
it out and see what people think, like, oh wait, that's actually really simple.
Here was these problems. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so
There's content for me now too.
there
I'm
you
like,
go.
hey,
Marketing the problem, marketing the process. And then I think the last thing is like your proof of like
case
what
studies,
have you guys
showcase.
done?
Yeah.
And so I think that only supports the problem and your process even more. And so um I don't know how we're doing on time, but the
I think we're
last question that I have for you is like, what gets you like fired up?
good. Ooh, dude, too much. I get fired up way too easy. I'm really passionate, but the reason I got into marketing, I'm kind of similar to your path. Like my parents had a lawn care business growing up. My sister started a dance studio. My brother owns an NIL, but like small business has always been a part of my life, whether I knew it or not. And so when I got into college, I was doing communications and took a marketing class, heard about digital marketing, and I was like, this is the way for small businesses to finally like cut through the noise and get their word out for, beating big business and actually surviving and thriving in their communities. I really believe that small business is like the heart of a community, right? Like if there are no small businesses, you don't really have a true community, right? Like nobody's like, oh, I love the manager at Walmart, great guy, donates to the school, right? It's like they're a for-profit entity. They don't get to make a lot of decisions. Small business owners are like, I'd love to donate and support. I want to help the community. So small business really gets me going. Community impact really gets me going. Um, but I've been in marketing so long now. I'm just really passionate about marketing and like helping businesses get where they haven't been able to before, helping them see that win. That's how it started, and that's kind of how it's evolved. I don't hate big businesses, but I just love the community aspect of business, and how it supports and creates and fosters a culture of people want to be here. People love being here.
I love that. So not only like the helping side, but also like the building of the community,
Yeah.
right? I love that. And like again, two
Another
more,
post.
yeah, two more like very important like pieces of content that you can
Yeah.
use. And what I love is because you're the director, you're kind of
Yeah.
like leading the show here. And when you're able to put out this type of content, like others will follow. That's
Yeah.
the cool thing.
Yeah.
Is you're like, hey, I'm passionate about this. This gets me fired up. This is who I want to help and like the things that I want to build. Like when you start making that content, they'll start
Students.
following.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I actually love this, but
Yeah.
it's not only like the community, but I also love like this piece and this piece.
Yeah.
And so now it's like you have this whole like team, content team that like they're just posting because they want to like
Yeah.
post about stuff. It's not make a post, get back data, and like all this like robotic stuff, but they're just sharing what they love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the root of ghostwriting, really. It's
Yeah.
like you have this point of view, like you have your point of view of you love community, you love building stuff and helping
Yeah.
these small brands. And so, how can we amplify that and communicate that in a way that like lands with people? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I want to make sure we're good on time. We've got about 5, 10 more minutes. I want to make sure I give you an opportunity, Jackson, to like tell us how we work with you. Do you know what I mean? Like how what's the best way for us to say like, okay, I think I'm ready. What are the questions I need to ask myself before I'm like schedule times with Jackson? We gotta get this going.
yeah, I think everyone, if you don't like work with a ghostwriter full, like no one, I think I actually wrote a post about this. Like no one needs a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like what you do need is you need a library of content that you can leverage for years down the road. Because if you can build stuff now, like it's not going away,
Yeah.
especially on like a newsletter type of platform. Like you own that platform. You don't own Meta,
No.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so if you can like put out that content like and have a library that you can always pull from, like that's amazing. It's what Alex Ramosi does.
Yeah.
Like he's
He's
just making
incredible at it.
content
Yeah.
and he can pull and repurpose. Um, so I think you need a library of content. You need a library, not a library. You need to be able to communicate your message effectively. You need to know how to articulate like that message because people have amazing ideas. They know what they want to build, but they just don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, like a ghostwriter may be a good idea
Yeah.
because they help you do all these different things. I'm really honing in on the newsletter side because I don't want to be just another ghostwriter,
Yeah.
someone who just makes content and writes stuff. Even though, like at the end of the day, that's
Valuable as well.
yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing. But there's so much more that goes into it of like asking these questions, sitting down, and like getting a little bit more specific on
Yeah.
actually what's going on, and being able to quickly pull that content out and go try it. Like it doesn't take a whole month to sit down and like, hey, we finally polished our one piece.
Right.
Like let's like get this thing going. And so that's kind of like my point of view
I like
on
that.
the ghostwriting side. And I think whoever wants to get started, like just
Reach out.
yeah, reach out.
Just
Like
DM
give
on
me a call.
LinkedIn. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a metric that I've been tracking recently is conversations started. Like,
Yeah.
how many conversations can I start today, and how many are like currently in progress, and how
Yeah.
many am I moving a little bit closer to helping them reach their goal?
Yeah, I love that. Um, let's talk the newsletter side for 1 second before we kind of wrap things up. I'm curious. So I have no newsletter right now. I know I need to have one. Um, is there? I mean, you just said you don't ever need a ghostwriter, but time in my life is very limited, right? So at what point do I say, okay, I can no longer be consistent without help, or I can no longer hit this goal without help? What signals should I be looking for? Does that make sense?
Yep. I think if you're currently putting out content and I mean, you're suffering with time. I don't have
Yeah,
time to do this. It's stressful. Like, content should not be stressful.
should be fun.
Yeah, it should really be fun because you're just sharing stuff. Um, I think those are like the two big ones. Like, are you trying to run this business?
Yeah,
And if you want to like kind of pour fuel on the fire, like that's when you bring in a ghostwriter and say like, hey, I'm not only going to take this load off a little bit more, but I'm going to like sharpen this message a whole lot more
yeah,
because that is going to help you attract the right people. It's going to help you attract more people
yeah,
and just move people along and almost hop on board with like that vision of that community building of helping these small startups because if you can do that and you can just expand, I mean, another huge benefit is just expanding your network.
yeah,
And so I think there's so many signals. I mean, you could be on the low end of like, I just don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to go hire someone to do this. But then you could be on the other end of like, I'm like just trying to bust through all of this and get all of this stuff done. And I'm so slammed with everything. I have no idea what to do. I think a ghostwriter can help anywhere along that
yeah.
spectrum.
I love it. All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? I think that's pretty much it on our end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
No,
So
really appreciate the time. It was great to meet you. Now I have like 85 pieces of content
there
thanks
you
to
go.
Jackson. Hopefully everyone else at home is going to have some good stuff as well. So thank you so much, Jackson. Again, Jackson, last name Limon?
Lamone.
Limon. I'm so sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
terrible at names. I'll get it eventually. Great to meet you. Thanks.
Thank you.